Welcome back. Let's talk about Lake Stevens because there's 36,000 people that live there, including some of my friends, and it can be important to them and it can be important to you as well. So thank you very much for joining me, and let's jump in. If you're new to my channel, I like to cover the areas outside Seattle city limits because Seattle's so big and we forget about all these little towns, municipalities, and everything like that. But I want to get into Lake Stevens today because, like I said, I have a lot of friends that actually live here, and one of my friends actually reached out to me and asked me for this a week ago, so I'm sorry it took so long to get to you. Been a little busy. So let's jump in on this. Lake Stevens, like I said, there's 36,000 people roughly that live there, including a person of notoriety. There's a little known actor called Chris Pratt that lives out here. He's fairly important. He's been in a lot of different things, Parks and Recs, as well as Guardians of the Galaxy. And as well, I want to also point out a person of note. My friend Kyle is here. So, if you know Kyle, you might see him on some of my videos, but he lives actually just outside of Lake Stevens. So I just want to give you a quick shout out. Like I said, so Lake Stevens is located in Snohomish County. It's just to the east of Everett, Washington. And that's connected by the trestle. Now, the trestle, that's Highway 2. This was built in 1939, and I was reading up on this in Wikipedia. I didn't know it was that old. But it connects both Everett and Lake Stevens together, and there's a series of lowlands and marshes in between that, and it's a very long trestle. It's over a mile long, but I didn't know it was that old, but just for fans of infrastructure, I think it's kind of interesting. But let's get into the demo. So inside Lake Stevens, this is located about 40 minutes north of the Seattle Space Needle, maybe about 50, depending on the day. But there's, like I said, 36,000 people that roughly live there. And then on the household side, there's about between 12,000 and 13,000 households inside of Lake Stevens. So that means there's a little more than 2.5 persons inside each of the homes. The median household income in this area is $112,000 a year, and our education level is 32% have a bachelor's degree or higher. Also, one thing that I want to point out on this, the employment side of this, the employment side is 69%, so it's fairly well employed. But a lot of the people that live inside of Lake Stevens, they either work inside of Everett or a little bit further south into the Bellevue Redmond area. Some of them even live in Seattle, but not work in Seattle, correction, but not a lot of them because that's over an hour away. There's a couple of hospitals in this area, and a lot of people like to live in Lake Stevens for that. Okay, so let's get into the actual home sales, because if you came to me and you said, hey, Victor, I want to buy a home inside of Lake Stevens, I say, I got you, boo, because I already pulled the numbers for this. As of just about an hour ago when I pulled these numbers today, I came up with 56 homes that are available for market, available right now on the market for purchase, and the average is $1,071,000. Now, the average days on market is 41 days, and that's 4 bedrooms, 3 bath, and about 2,088 square feet. Now, that might sound like a lot, but inside this area, that's kind of the a little bit below the asking. Now, this is asking. This is not the homes that are actually being sold, and this is one thing that I want to talk to you about today, is because this is asking and not sold. I also want to point out I have a cold today, so I'm getting a little bit of reverb in my ear, so just bear with me. But this is the asking and not the sold, and right now they're at 41 days on market. Now, if we go all the way down to today's what actually sold in February of last month, just last month in February, the average home sold was $778,000. It's been on the market for 32 days. It was 3 beds, 3.5 beds, and 2.5 bath. Now, we're going to talk about that average house because we're going to compare that over the next couple of years, the last couple of years, over the next couple of minutes. So, in February 2020, if you bought the average house, that was 2,227 square feet. So 2,227 square feet, 3 beds, a bonus room, and 2.5 bath. That's what the average house was that was on the market and has sold for the last 5 years. Now, if you bought that house, it would be worth roughly, let me see if I can find my number here, $515,000 in February 2020. A lot has changed, and I'm going to get into that right now. But if you bought that house, they sold roughly 79 homes that year inside of February, and it took 33 days to actually sell on average. Now, if you waited 1 year and you bought that house just a year later, or you had bought it and you want to know what your value has changed, there was a run up, and that run up was 23%. So again, what happened in February 2020 is completely different than what happened in February 2021, because we had roughly 10, 11 months of COVID at that time, so the lockdowns. But if that house at that time was worth $632,000 roughly, instead of 514, so it increased over 114%, over $114,000. Now in 2022, this is where it got really, really scary, because a lot of people were buying in Lake Stevens. It was kind of weird because they wanted to live in Lake Stevens or the outskirts of Seattle, but they didn't want to live exactly in Everett. So some people went into Lake Stevens. And the average sold was about 71 homes were sold inside of February, but I noticed a lot of people started moving to Lake Stevens. Like I said, I have a lot of friends anecdotally that, they actually moved to Lake Stevens. And as you can tell, the days on market changed. So we went from 33 days in 2022 for February to 27 days in 2021 in February to 9 days in February 2022. So what that means is there were people bidding, and it was very, very fast market. And even though they only sold 71 homes, there was multiple bids, and the price went up quite a bit, because that house in February 2022, that same 2,227 square feet, 3 beds, a bonus room, and 2.5 bath, what that house was worth at that time on average was $783,000, and that was 52% higher than the year before. So that was a huge change inside of February 2022. The reason why I want to talk about that one at length is because in February 22, we had our interest rates change in March and in April. So this is where the brakes got pulled, and now we're in a different selling market. So in February 2023, that same size house, that 2,022 square foot house, was worth $733,000. So it went down about 7%, but it retained a lot of its value. It took 45 days to sell instead of 9. So this is where you see the difference in the size, in the actual velocity of homes being sold. And this is really important because this is where it was slowing down because the cost of money became too expensive. In February 2024, that is this last month, the average home inside of Lake Stevens, Washington, that sold was $785,000. And again, that's still above where it was a year before, but it's roughly the same level inside of February 22. So the units sold, though, they sold significantly less units, and that was 46 homes were sold instead of 76 the year before. So there was a 40% decrease in sold homes. So this sounds like a lot of numbers, but I want to give you an idea of the demand inside of Lake Stevens, because it's just a different area. It's a little bit nicer because everything's been built up in this zone. They had a lot of builders out there, and the regular single family homes are great out there, but they're also competing with the new construction. One thing that I want to compare also is the rents versus the mortgage. And usually I was going to do it this week, but I'm going to put it off until next week. But in your rent versus your mortgage comparison, I'm going to do a separate video for that. But if you were to buy this house, this 2,227 square foot home that has 3 beds and a bonus room, and it's 2.5 bath, if you were to buy this, it would be at least $5,500 a month. But if you were to rent it, it would be $3,700 a month. So it's 148% more to buy now than it is to rent. And this is one of the things that I was asked when my friend asked me about this. They asked me, hey, is it better right now to buy or is it better to rent? Well, depends on your situation. But as I could tell you, the numbers wise, it is more affordable to rent right now than it is to buy. And that's coming from a real estate agent that wants to help you actually buy and sell a home. So keep that stuff in mind when you're getting into this, because you want to make sure your own affordability matters. Because right now, not only is the homes unaffordable, but the cost of the money is unaffordable, i.e. the interest rates. So keep that stuff in mind, because that's the reason why I do this, is because I want to talk kind of at length to give you an idea of what's going on inside your market, in your neighborhood. If you have questions, you can reach out to me right here. I love to work with you. Again, I'm available for hire if you have any questions. I'm out of the Seattle area, and I'd love to meet you. And as always, it was a pleasure meeting you, and I hope you have a fantastic day.